Skull Rock Podcast is brought to you by the generosity of the following companies. The Old Mill Press, publishing beautifully crafted books that illuminate our world. To learn more, visit theoldmillpress.com. And by listeners like you.
Hello, this is Dave Spafford. I'm an animator, and you are listening to the Skull Rock Podcast.
Skull Rock Podcast, where you hear the stories behind the adventures. With your hosts, Aljon Go and Dave Bossert.
Welcome to Skull Rock Podcast, the show about all things Disney and pop culture, where every week we take you behind the scenes of some of your favorite Disney films, theme park attractions, performances, books, music, as well as what's streaming, what's in theaters, and what's going on in this universe of entertainment. I'm Aljon Go, musician and longtime Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, and pop culturist, and you can email me, Aljon, A-L-J-O-N, at skullrockpodcast.com.
And I'm Dave Bossert, artist, filmmaker, author, and welcome to the Skull Rock Podcast. If you love Disney and pop culture, please subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also like and follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on YouTube. You can also email me at dave@skullrockpodcast.com. Aljon, we're back in the saddle here after really, I think, a month. A month of dropping sort of pre-recorded shows.
Yes.
Because you and I were both on the road traveling the world.
Oh, indeed. And
you were traveling the world.
I was traveling.
I was only traveling domestically.
Well, how are your travels?
My travels were fabulous.
Good.
You know, I spent several weeks up in Maine. I did a lot of reading. I'll talk about that in our picks of the week. And then, you know, after Maine, I was back in Los Angeles for just, I think, 2.5 days or so. And I went off to Florida. I did a keynote speaking gig down in Florida for a company for a corporate retreat. And you know, hightailed it out of Florida before Hurricane Milton hit.
I was going to say, you know,
it was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, once again, so many people affected by the recent rash of storms, you know, in the Carolinas and of course in Florida. And my gosh, our heart goes out to everybody because I know, from firsthand experience, and friends that live there that it was not easy at all. And
no,
people are still
it was terrible. And you're right. Our heart goes out to everybody who's been affected by these storms. Yeah. And Aljon, what about Tennessee? I saw that Tennessee was affected, the way North Carolina was.
Yeah,
Nashville.
Yeah. You know, we got a lot of rain, and then I skedaddle out of town, but we also have portions of, you know, East Tennessee and things like that were close to Asheville, North Carolina. Of course, we border that state and that city, and you know, people got hit really hard. So, you know, so it's not just the coastline or the, you know, Florida that got hit really bad, but I mean, obviously, you know, Florida and the Carolinas and the coast areas got hit the hardest. But yeah, it's never easy. You know, these natural disasters happen, and it's just a shame. You know, hopefully everybody's getting what they need in a timely manner. And once again, you know, the communities, it's really fascinating how the human spirit is able to kind of rise up amongst hardship and really pick themselves up. And as a community, they're able to rebuild. So. And
they will. They always do.
Absolutely.
How was your travels? You were on the other side of the world.
I went over to Indonesia several weeks ago and staying in Jakarta and in the city, and it was great. I mean, great people, great food, great culture. Was able to stay there for about 5 days and made a stop in Korea and everything, and it was hot. I mean, it's been a long time, Dave, since I've been that on the equator like that. And it was hot and humid.
Yeah, I was going to say, it gets very steamy out there. I've been to Jakarta myself. And it's that part of the world does get a lot of humidity this time of year.
It certainly does. Now, when did you go to Jakarta?
Oh my gosh. I gotta say, I was in Jakarta probably, it's gotta be 10 or 12 years ago.
Okay. So since then, Dave, they've extended their their city outward with these man-made islands, Dave.
Wow.
It is absolutely fascinating. It's like they're trying to recreate Hawaii. There's a bunch of rich investors that came in and decided to build, extend Jakarta into New Jakarta City. And it's just white sands and just very touristy and just a beautiful place. But my gosh, it was so hot, Dave. I have to tell you, I was so happy to be in air conditioning.
It's oppressive when it's that hot.
No, it certainly is.
Yeah.
So that was Jakarta. And then last week, after I got back from my trip and was in the office for a few days, ended up taking a 7-day cruise to the Bahamas. And we did miss Milton, thankfully. We left Port Canaveral, got on to Royal Caribbean's big ship, and we sailed out, hit the private island, and it was great for about 3 hours, and then the skies opened up, and it was a torrential downpour. So,
wow.
And then we got out of there, went to Cozumel, and went to Jamaica, and it was fine. The kids loved it, and my hat's off to the crew of the ship, because the captain was amazing, great, and made all the right decisions, changed our itinerary to avoid any types of storm, which was great. But in doing that, and his preparedness really helped us get the most out of our vacation, because there were a lot of cruise liners, of course, that had to make detours and things, and they couldn't get into ports. And I know there was a ship that left New York and ended up only hitting one of their destinations because they couldn't get anywhere else, because there are other cruises that are all, already booked up in these ships. So,
sure. Yeah.
Those are the unforeseen circumstances when you do vacation or take a cruise or anything. These acts of God, if you will, tend to kind of mess things up. All you can do is just enjoy yourself. And we certainly did. So we're very grateful for that. And, the kids are, bouncing up and down the corridors of the ship, and we ate a lot of great food, Dave. So we can't complain.
All right.
Saw a lot of great movies, though. I just saw a lot of great movies and caught up on some shows while we were out. So I know we're going to be hitting this really hard. But man, do we have an awesome guest in for another round today?
We do. We've got legendary Disney layout artist Ed Ghertner. And it's going to be part 4. We're concluding our 4-part interview with Ed, which I think has been really fantastic. We got some good feedback from a lot of different people over the weeks that we've been gallivanting around in our travels. So maybe we should just hit on some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We are once again on YouTube. And that has been a really great way for people to kind of contact us over, I guess, just send us feedback, which is pretty awesome, So we do have a few things. We have Doug Yeager. Oh, wait, I need to hit this here.
Skull Rock Podcast answers your email.
All right. So we had our Bob Weiss, the former president of Walt Disney Imagineering, talking about Ghost Dog a few weeks ago. And we have a feedback here from Doug Yeager, who says, former Disney cast member here. I just pre-ordered Ghost Dog just for the glow-in-the-dark cover. And what Bob said about how changes occur from start to finish in an attraction are true. The history of the Haunted Mansion was developed over a decade ago, and the concept was changed so many times. I do wish I could have seen the walkthrough idea. Today's haunt has me thinking that this would have been Haunted Mansion like. Walt Disney was really pushing for some scare factor. And yes, I think you said it best, Dave, about Walt, that people like to be scared.
Yeah, Walt said that. He said people do like to be scared. And, I think after he passed away, there was a sort of a push-pull going on with the Haunted Mansion, because it had, that opened in, I guess it was 1969, the Haunted Mansion. So it was a few years after Walt's death. And, there was one group that wanted it to be scary. There was another group that wanted it to be funny. So they kind of did a combination, and I think they did a great job on it. I really do.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, man, we do have some other subscribers. So thank you so much for subscribing to our YouTube. it's really great. It's kind of taken off, and I'm excited that we're on all these platforms, including YouTube. So every week we put out this new show every Monday. You all can listen to it even on YouTube if you want. Listen to it at work if you want on YouTube, as well as every other podcast platform. Dave, I know we have another email, do we not?
Yeah, we do, and this one is from Mike Quicella, who is a guest on the show.
Yeah,
and he says, "I see you. Thanks for lingering on Rock and Rule for a bit. An animator I worked with, Darlie Brewster, animated all those creepy mock close-ups with the big Mick Jagger lips.
Yeah.
Darlie would be a great guest if you all haven't had her on already. Cheers, Mike." Well, I have to say, we were talking on one of the episodes a month or so ago about the movie Rock and Rule, which came out in, I think it was 1983.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And that was a Canadian film.
Yes.
Which I'm just trying to remember. It was directed by Clive Smith. I know that, but it was from Nelvana.
Okay, that's studio.
I think it was released through United Artists, so it was sort of or MGM, United Artists Entertainment. But that was Nelvana, which was at one time a huge animation studio up in I think Toronto,
right?
We lingered on that a little bit, and I'm glad it brought back some memories for Mike. And by the way, we are going to have Darlie Brewster on the show as a guest later this year. It's probably going to be, I think, in November, December, when her interviews are going to drop.
Okay.
So keep your eye out for that.
Oh, that's going to be great. I mean, there's so many, I guess, underrated animated films, especially in that era, that don't get a lot of love, and it's great to kind of shine a light on it. When you look back, it's still very incredible stuff. So go back and check it out. I think it's even on YouTube, so you can go search for it. Well, that wraps up that particular segment. And once again, I encourage everybody to fill out the form, hit the email, do whatever you need to do, and or even YouTube. Hit YouTube and give us those questions and comments for an upcoming episode.
Yeah, and by the way, before we move on, I do want to acknowledge that, I see an awful lot of comments. David Scott Smith said Ed is one of the greats.
Oh, yes.
So, I see comments on the Facebook pages. Tammy Tucky, woo, go Edward. She loved the show, and Tammy Tucky has her the Tammy Tucky show that I've been on a number of times, Al John. And she's a great part of the Disney sort of podcast fandom, right?
Oh, indeed. Yeah, Tammy's great, 100%. And we got to have her back at some point. She's got a lot of great stories, and I know that she's involved in a bunch of different things. So we'll have to get her back in here as a talking head at some point. But
and Darlie Brewster left a comment. What a history! Talking about Ed Ghertner's, the 4-part series here. So we are seeing your messages and appreciate them
100%.
Without question, because we need the feedback from you guys. I hope you're liking the shows and listening.
Oh yeah.
And it's just great to hear from people and hear their comments about the various guests that we're having on. Anyway,
absolutely.
I lingered.
We lingered.
We lingered.
All right, Dave. It's been a few weeks. Let's talk about what we've been watching, and maybe we'll just do a quick review of some stuff.
Yeah, something, Aljon. When I was up in Maine, no television,
of course,
no movies, nothing for 2 weeks. But Since I've been back, I managed to squeeze in seeing a screening of The Wild Robot.
Okay.
Which is a fantastic animated film from DreamWorks, released through Universal, and directed by an old classmate of mine, Chris Saunders. We went to Cal Arts together, and we worked together for a number of years at Disney. Chris directed this, and I think did a spectacular job. The synopsis is shipwrecked on a deserted island. A robot named Roz must learn to adapt to its new surroundings. Building relationships with the native animals, Roz soon develops a parental bond with an orphaned gosling. I'm not going to dwell too much on this movie, other than to say this is an absolutely beautiful movie that hits on so many different levels. It is a great story. It is great characters that you really care about. Chris did a fabulous job developing these characters on screen, and it's in a beautiful setting. It's out in nature on this deserted island, but even beyond that, the art direction is spectacular on this movie. This is a beautiful film, and I would encourage our listeners, go see this on a big screen before it's gone. This is one of those movies where they did an incredible job in creating a visual look. The art direction is superb. And beyond that, the lighting artists did an incredible job lighting this picture. It's just absolutely beautiful on so many different levels. I give it 2 thumbs up. On Rotten Tomatoes, it's 98%. So check it out, and please see it on a big screen if you can.
There you go.
As far as on the small screen, I had watched it's a limited series called Deep Water, and it's available on Peacock if you want to check it out. The synopsis is 3 completely different women juggle work, family, parenting, and personal lives, all while dealing with their own inhibitions. Through their journey, they find true meaning of womanhood and how it influences the world around them. I found this to be a very enjoyable miniseries. Check it out on Paramount. Not Paramount, on Peacock. Next up, there was, again, this is another limited series called The Drowning. Jody is a woman with a struggling business and money problems. She has been trying to rebuild her life after the loss of her 4-year-old son, Tom, from drowning 8 years ago. His body was never recovered. 10 years later, she is about to pitch a big project for the landscaping firm she owns with her friend Yasmin when she spots a curly-haired teenager walking to catch the bus to school. He's carrying a guitar and looks exactly like her missing son. Faced with skepticism from her family and the police, she sets out to find the truth. Boy, this has a twist to it at the end that you don't see coming, Aljon.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this limited series. It's The Drowning. You can check it out on AMC Plus.
Nice.
And then finally, Bad Monkey. I finished watching Bad Monkey with Vince Vaughn,
okay,
a former Miami Police Department member turned health inspector. Andrew Yancey investigates a case involving a human arm. He navigates through eccentric characters and unexpected challenges, all while dealing with his own personal struggles. This is on Apple TV. This was a great series, and I really hope they pick it up for a second season. Nice. I really like Vince Vaughn's character, Andrew Yancey, and there's sort of I would almost call this a dramedy because, it's a drama, but there is an edge of comedy to this that's just fabulous. It's very well written.
Nice.
And I think you'd enjoy it. Now, while I was up in Maine, not looking at television or going to the movies, I read 5 books.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is. But they were fun books.
Okay.
The first one was The Mad Files, which is a collection of essays from writers, cartoonists, artists, critics about Mad Magazine.
Wow, yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed that read. It filled me in with a lot of history of the magazine, which was fabulous.
I love that magazine.
Yeah, and then I read the Peanuts Files. The Peanuts Papers, I should say. The Peanuts Papers is a similar type of book where it's a collection of essays from writers, cartoonists, critics, artists, talking about the Charles Schulz comic strip, the Peanuts. Peanuts. Who's not a fan of Peanuts?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah,
so good.
Then I read an incredible book, and I can't recommend this book more highly, The Mysterious Case of Rudolph Diesel. Now,
Okay.
I will tell you, my friend Alan Coates, Claude Coates' son, Alan Coates, turned me on to this book many months ago. And I had bought it, and I put it in the pile of books I was going to read, and I grabbed it when I was heading to Maine, and I took it with me. This is a fabulous read, The Mysterious Case of Rudolph Diesel, which is really the history of Rudolph Diesel, who invented the diesel engine and who mysteriously disappears right at the beginning of World War One. And there's a lot of cross currents here with people like John D. Rockefeller and Winston Churchill and Kaiser Wilhelm. There's a lot at play with the war, the beginning of World War One, all of these things happening, and how this guy all of a sudden disappears. You got to read this book. It is fantastic. The author did a great job on it.
Nice.
I also read a book called The Bookshop, which is a history of bookstores from Benjamin Franklin to present day. And that was a fascinating read. And then finally, I read a book called...
He's going to the back, everybody. He's going to the back.
I had to get up and grab this because okay. I have to tell you, Aljon, The Isolation Artist, Scandal, Deception, and the Last Days of Robert Indiana.
Okay.
Now, Robert Indiana is a pop artist, and most of you will say, I don't know who Robert Indiana is. But if you've ever seen the sculpture of the word love, L-O on top of V-E,
yes,
with the O tilted,
yes,
that's Robert Indiana's work.
It's amazing.
That's his most famous piece.
Yes.
And this is a fascinating book because he moves from New York City to Vinyl Haven, which is an island off the coast of Maine, off the coast of Rockland, Maine. And, he spends the end of his life there, and he's taken advantage of by various individuals. He makes bad business decisions, all kinds of craziness that goes on. And this is one of those stories that is a cautionary tale for artists who do not have any kind of business sense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was an amazing read, I have to say. So there you have it. That's what I've been up to, and that's the media and whatnot that I've been consuming over the last month or so.
Wowzers. No, that's great, Dave. That's great. That book is very intriguing. I'll have to look into it. I like that. Well, over this past month, a lot of really cool stuff. I have to say that Matt Mason, the poet laureate of Skull Rock Podcast, has a new book out, and I mentioned this, I think maybe on our last live show, maybe about a month ago. I said last live show, but he's got a poetry book called Rock Stars, which is a really, really nice book of rock and roll inspired poetry. And if you're a kid of the 70s, 80s, and 90s and love music, you're going to love these. The references different bands from the likes of the Queen and Billy Joel and Blondie, and they're all in here. And there's different subject matter that's in there. Journey, the band Journey, they're all referenced, but there's a rock and roll edge to it. There are little narratives, of course, and the way he weaves them. It talks about disproving the Bon Jovi theorem is one of his little pieces here. But it's just a really, really great book. And it says, let's see, there's a little quote here so I can give you an idea. But it says here, Rockstars is a rich with illusions, which delight like little Easter eggs. It's an abundant and dazzling paean to the songs and souls that fascinates us. And that is a quote from Michael Keebler-Diggs, the author of Worldly Things. And it's right. It's just chock full of really cool references. And if you're into music, you're going to dig it. And of course,
I love this book. I got a copy of it. Matt sent a copy, and we love Matt Mason.
He's fun, right?
So, I what I would say to people, expand your mind a little bit. Read some poetry.
I love it. It's so great, and it's easy to digest. It's so much fun. And speaking of easy to digest, Dave, I'm plugging your book, Find Your Happy Place, the 8-Step Guide to Boosting Your Creativity Through a Personal Retreat. Dave, you were on our show a couple of weeks back to promote it. It's a great read. Everybody go out there and check it out. You can get it at better bookstores. If they don't have it, order it. You can find it online as well and at Old Mill Press. The link's in our show notes, of course. But check it out. You get some keen insights into this co-host of mine. And
did you read this?
Yeah, I read. I'm almost through it. Not all the way through it, but almost through it.
So you took it on your vacation.
Took it on my vacation. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Those were the 2 books I took on my vacation. They would fit in my backpack with all the rest of my stuff. So there you go. Some other things now. I did watch a lot of movies. I'll be honest. When you're going back and forth and traveling, you have an opportunity to catch a lot in the in-flight. But I
was going to say, flying to Jakarta in Indonesia. I mean, you must have been in transit for 14 hours from Nashville.
Yeah, we had a layover in Korea, and then we took a plane from Nashville. Yeah, went from Nashville to Atlanta the first time, Atlanta to Seoul, and from Seoul to Jakarta. That was like I was in the air all day.
That's a huge travel day.
Yeah, and then back instead of Atlanta, we went to Detroit. So it was just a long day. But I will say this: what I did see in the theaters just last night, as we record this, was what was number 1 film a couple weeks ago, Terrifier 3. It is the holiday season. What is the holiday season of Halloween without me commenting on a horror movie? It had to be said. This is probably one of the most gruesome, gory films I've ever seen, Dave. This is an independent film. Art the Clown is back. If you know, he is a crazy slasher hacker. It is the actor that plays Art the Clown, David Howard Thornton, is an excellent mime. And the character of Art the Clown actually started in a short, kind of an anthology, ended up morphing into a feature film, independently done. And this splatter slasher horror film has kind of ballooned into what was now the number 1 film. It knocked Joker off its. It didn't even have a pedestal. Joker was one clown surpassed another clown, Dave.
Joker tanked while we were out of town. Yeah. Joker tanked so badly it was in the gutter already.
Yeah, it's in the gutter. Yeah, it's in the gutter. But hats off to writer director Damien Leone, who put together 2 hours worth of crazy gore fest. Adds to the lore. Art the Clown more terrifying than ever. and then brought back the heroine, the final girl, if you will. Lauren Lavera, who plays Sienna, is back as the hero. She is, what can I say, the modern day scream queen, Jamie Lee Curtis. I mean, she's really good, and her, I guess, nephew or niece, Antonella Rose, Gabby, she's great too. So I can't go on and on about it. It is super gory.
Were you terrified?
I was. My mouth hasn't been aghast, like, on the floor for all the creative kills in this film and the blood and in it. God. So Dave, this movie is not for you.
No, it's not.
It's not for a lot of people. In fact, during the UK screening of its opening, there were people getting queasy in the lobby. People walked out because it was completely just squeamish. It's crazy. So anyway, if you like terrifying stuff, if you love splat horror, you'll love Terrifier. I also saw this great documentary, Dave. You know, they say diamonds are forever, right, Dave?
Yes.
Now, I saw this documentary on Paramount called Nothing Lasts Forever. It was made in 2022, but it's about the diamond business. Mm-hmm. The boilerplate is illusions and reality merge, where authentically and imagination overlap, and questions arise about the value we place on the goods around us. And this is about the diamond industry. It goes into De Beers and how diamonds are being mined and how valuable really are diamonds. And then the lab created diamonds and how they came to be, and how the industry is being rocked by lab and artificial diamonds. Who can tell one from the other? And why wasn't there controls placed on one over the other? Dave, we both bought diamond rings for our significant others, right? And
we absolutely did.
Diamonds are what to you? A symbol of,
yeah, it's obviously a symbol of love, especially when it comes to a wedding ring. But I also think it's always been a racket.
There you go. That's it.
It's always been a racket because they mark it up. Now, I will tell you, I did something very different than most people would do, right? Because most people would go to a local jewelry store and find the ring that they, fits their budget and buy it, right?
Yes.
Nancy and I have a friend whose uncle was in the diamond business in Manhattan.
Uh-huh.
So we went into the diamond district and met with this person, and they went, we told them, we went and talked to him. We told him how much, we were looking to spend.
Uh-huh.
He went and found a spectacular stone.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the quality of the stone.
That's right.
So he found a beautiful stone, brought it back over to it. This is something like out of a movie, right? Because we go into one of these storefronts and there's, 50 different kiosks or vendors in a building, you know, and we went to see Joe and we talked to him and got to know him a little bit. And he says, let me go check with somebody. He left us there for like 15 minutes. He came back, opened up a little piece of black velvet to show us this beautiful stone. And then we picked out a setting for it. And then he had it all put together for us while we waited, which was amazing, and
nice.
We walked out of there with a beautiful engagement ring.
That's amazing. That's a great story.
To me, it was sort of an experience doing all of that as opposed to just going into a jewelry store and picking something out of a case.
Well, Dave, would you say you have a friend in the diamond business?
I do have a friend in the diamond business. I would say. I honestly, that was so many years ago. I honestly don't even think he's alive anymore.
Well, I understand, and you know, but it is interesting how over time, in hundreds of years, that the diamond ring has become a symbol. And these stories, and we say this in retail all the time. Dave, in another life, I was in retail. And I can tell you that those were the best story, and it still holds true today because you're a storyteller, Dave. Those were the best story wins. right?
Yeah.
And so when you talk about this documentary of how the diamond business was able to come up, and you said that yourself that it was a racket in a lot of respects, you get to see that exposed and try to see the people and the players in the industry and how they try to control the pricing and how they control market share, and how the industry. It's absolutely fascinating. I can't tell you enough about it. I'm fascinated by it. And I'm going
to check this documentary out.
Yeah, check it out. And I believe it'll change the way you think about diamonds and jewelry as a whole. I highly recommend it. It's called Nothing Lasts Forever. You can find it on Paramount Plus. Cool. All right. And I will say I'm going to save the other stuff that I watched because for another episode
next week.
But I will say that I did watch Bob Marley's One Love.
Oh, did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay.
It was a good 6.5, 7 out of 10 for me. I thought that the story is important, and I'm a huge fan of Bob Marley's music. Of course, this is a story of how reggae icon Bob Marley overcame adversity and his journey behind his revolutionary music. It talks about his humble beginnings, all the way from how he grew up in flashbacks and how his band formed, and then how ultimately, because of the political climate there in Jamaica and the different things surrounding his death, it was just very fascinating. His family life, of course, the music plays a pivotal role in this, as you would think. And so I think it's well done, and I think it's worth your time. So if you get a chance to check it out, it's streaming on MGM Plus and Prime. You can check it out. But if you're a fan of music and music history, and you're a fan definitely of Bob Marley, you'll want to check out Bob Marley, One Love, now streaming.
Awesome.
All right.
Skull Rock Podcast. This week in Disney and pop culture.
Well, Dave, I'll have to say this. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame happened. I'm going to just knock this out straight from the get. Celebration happened over the weekend. Kool and the Gang, Dave Matthews Band, Mary J. Blige, A Tribe Called Quest, and Cher showed up to accept inductions, which was really cool. And Kool and the Gang, if you will. Did I get that right? 2024. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, how about that, Dave? I mean, that's quite a class.
I think it's great. I have no clue how they figure out who's in, who's not in, and why. Some years you hear some band that's getting, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you're like, really? They're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame already?
I know, right? I know, right?
I don't know how they figure this stuff out.
Yeah, there's a ballot. You have to have had 25 years from the release of your first record to be included on the ballot the first time. It's voted on by a bunch of people, not only just in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I believe they're also recording artists as well. So I guess they have to be like in the Grammy pool, if you will.
Okay.
RIAA, I believe, is the company. It's a little bit different than some of the other stuff that goes on. But yes, it fascinates me how some of these people haven't been there. But of course, the event returned to the hometown of the Rock and Roll Museum for the first time since 2021. And of course, this year's honors, the category, or the performer categories, went to Mary J. Blige, Cher, Dave Matthews Band, Foreigner, Peter Frampton, Kool and the Gang, Ozzy Osbourne, A Tribe Called Quest. And Musical Excellence Award honorees include Jimmy Buffett, MC5, Dionne Warwick, Norman Whitfield, Alex Corner, John Mayall, and Big Mama Thornton received the Musical Influence Award. And Motown executive Suzanne DePass received the Ahmet Etgun Award. The fifth woman received the accolade. So that is quite a class, if you will. I'm a huge Ozzy Osbourne fan, big fan of Jimmy Buffett, Kool and the Gang. There's so many noteworthy artists here. Dionne Warwick, of course, in there as well. John Mayall. Dave, are you a big fan of any of those bands and artists?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm scratching my head going, you're kidding me. Peter Frampton's just getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right.
I mean, he set the tone 40 years ago.
Oh, he certainly did. He certainly did.
And with his guitar work, I mean, it's, and his first album, I mean, it's just incredible. And also Jimmy Buffett, he should have been inducted before he died.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
That's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it is. And I will say this, we should celebrate these musicians while they're still here. Why do you wait until some people pass away in order to recognize their contributions to the world of art and music? I mean, Peter Frampton, for heaven's sake, I've worked, I don't mean to name drop Dave, but I'm going to name drop Peter Frampton.
Do it. Name drop.
I've known Peter Frampton now for many years, and I've worked with him. Now, I say that to say that he's just the very nicest guy, English gentleman, very nice guy to work with. And every time I work with him, I mean, he may not even know my name, Dave, but honestly, he just makes an impact because he's just such a nice English gentleman, just a nice guy. So anyway, I will say that it's worth checking out. You can see it on Max, if I'm not mistaken. Awesome. The big box office news, Dave, Smile 2 sinks its teeth into $9.4 million opening day. It's the horror season.
It is.
The Smile movie, the original one, did great at the box office. It kind of set off what this is, a new tentpole franchise for Paramount, which is great. And then, of course, we have, the bombs that you're talking about, right? I mean, you've got a brand new film, I guess, We Live in Time, starring Andrew Garfield, which is doing respectable, which is a A24 film. It's a tearjerker. And Andrew Garfield, of course, making the press, promoting the film, went on the Sesame Street Instagram talking about how he misses his mom, and that went viral with Elmo. It just went viral. Yeah. Andrew Garfield is such a great actor. And then you saw Wild Robot, so there you go.
Wild Robot's holding on to the number 2 spot.
It is on my
again, I can't say enough good things about Wild Robot. If you haven't seen it, go out and check it out. It is a fabulous animated film. And by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if it's nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature.
That's great. It's on my list to check out. It looks like an amazing movie. And of course, Beetlejuice, which by the way I did see finally as well.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Not as good as the first.
A fun movie. I enjoyed it.
Yes, absolutely. I think you have to look at it as its own film ultimately, because you want to always make the comparison to the first one. But Michael Keaton and Jenny Ortega is just really great. Great together. They're just great.
Yeah, and I think Beetlejuice is going to play into the Halloween season. It's got legs for several more weeks, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It's good stuff. So, I mean, the box office is in flux, but we are entering the holiday season. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially with Disney and everything that's happening. Speaking of Disney animation shakeup. Now, this happened a few weeks ago, but we need to mention it. We're talking about.
We have to mention it because we talked about this earlier in the year, saying that they had to do something.
Yes.
They had to get rid of Jennifer Lee.
Yes.
I mean, Jennifer Lee was the chief creative officer of Walt Disney Animation Studios and really at the helm of some major flops over the last several years.
Now, I had spoken when she took over that this may be a good thing, just because of where she came from, but it ended up being a complete train wreck, Dave. So don't ever listen to me when it comes to that kind of stuff.
and by the way, when they did name her, from day one, I was skeptical because I didn't believe that she had the provenance in animation to be in that position. But it was a lot of politics at Disney. And again, Disney sometimes makes decisions based on the optics of the situation as opposed to doing what's correct for the business.
Well, sure. And I think everybody was waiting for her to rise to the occasion, right? I mean, you just hope for the best, right?
Well, once they make a decision, of course, you hope for the best. But unfortunately, Strange World was a horrible movie. Wish last year was a terrible film.
Yeah,
absolutely terrible film. In fact, it was so refreshing when I went to see The Wild Robot in the theaters, because that to me is what animation is all about. It was firing on all cylinders. And you sit there and go, and by the way, Chris Sanders, he is, a former Disney guy.
Oh, for sure.
He knows how to tell a story. I mean, he directed Lilo and Stitch.
Oh yes, which I saw again.
He directed How to Train Your Dragon.
Yep.
Over at DreamWorks. So, I mean, he knows how to tell a story. They have lost their way over at Walt Disney Animation Studios. And I've said this time and time again. They were disconnected from their audience. You look at Wild Robot, Chris Sanders is completely connected to the audience.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So, Jennifer Lee exiting as CEO. Jared Bush takes over.
CCO. Chief Creative Officer.
Yes, Chief Creative Officer. Now, Lee's still going to be doing stuff with Frozen and Disney, so she's still going to be there. But Jared Bush, good luck, buddy. And
he's got a lot to do.
He's got a lot.
And hopefully Moana 2 will be a bump up this year.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Just, because the first one was so darn good. Don't besmirch the legacy of Moana. Disneyland rolls out $400 limited passes for line skipping patrons. Dave, I reacted to this on Dining at Disney podcast with my wife, and what can I say? This is insanity. It's insanity, Dave.
Hey, something. Look, I think some people are going to be very critical of this and say, oh my God, they're really gouging people. But you know what? They're testing things. They're putting things in place. And if somebody's willing to do this and spend the money, you know what? Take their money.
You know what? That's a great attitude to have. That's the first thing that I did come around to that way of thinking. Because it's like, hey, look, people have money to spend. Buy. It's just like the Star Cruiser, right? When Disney rolled out the prices for the Star Wars Star Cruiser, and people were trying to stay at that experience, and people were scoffing at the price. I'm like, hey, man, if you've got it, do it, go for it. And so,
but that was also an example of they did an experiment to see if they could do sort of an immersive resort experience. But the price of that was out of reach for so many people that they couldn't really fill that hotel.
Well,
and that's why it closed.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of market research. Disney's usually the best when it comes to market research.
Yeah,
but basically, the Disneyland and Walt Disney World resorts are going to be offering Lightning Lane Premier Pass for a limited amount of customers that will be roughly $400 a person.
On top of the $104 one park ticket.
Yes. So basically they're able to, skip lines and go on. Now, Universal has an equivalent version of this that they pay a fraction of for. And I get it, I mean,
but just think in these terms for a second.
Okay.
If you and your spouse and 2 children, that's 4 people, right, were to take advantage of this, you're talking $2,000 to go through the gate. Actually, $2,016 to go through the gate.
That's right. And that's for one day.
For one day.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? There's people out there who may just sit there and go, I don't care. That's like $20 to me.
It's fine. Yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
And that's why I sit there and say, if Disney wants to do this, they're doing it because there may be a demand and it's a revenue generator for them. But I think what happens with these types of situations, Aljon, is that it could potentially be brand damaging for them. Because with these types of things, you start to create a haves and the have-nots.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you have class warfare there.
Yeah, you have class warfare, but you also have people. It breeds bad feelings towards the brand.
That's right.
That's something that they may find out down the line that this is not a good thing for the brand. And you and I both know, and we're hearing it from hardcore fans all the time, they're starting to get a little disillusioned with Disney.
Well, I can tell you, Dave, I felt that way.
Yeah.
And that there are a lot of times since we've started this podcast that I just wanted to call you, Dave, and say, you know what? I don't know, man. I'm just not into Disney the way I used to be, or Star Wars the way I used to be. But what keeps me going is talking with you and revisiting the old stuff with a lot of our guests. So
yeah, absolutely. And look, and I've had this conversation with a number of people over the years. I love, the period of the Disney history when Walt was alive and all of those great films they did, and the beginnings of Disneyland, and the invention of theme parks, the attractions, all of those things. I love all of that, history. And I try not to pay too much attention to what they're doing today, other than us commenting on things like we are on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, I think over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of damage done to the Disney brand.
Well, and I think too, the pandemic was hard on everybody. And so you're seeing a lot of the stuff, happen in that bubble, and decisions and creative decisions and business decisions were all done in a certain way, because everybody was isolated too, and so who knows. But, we're getting out of it. Let's see what happens. Speaking of making choices and changes, Josh D'Amaro over there at Disney Parks plots a $60 billion investment in the park experience. And that's a lot, Dave. I mean, they're getting Imagineers back. They're betting on a lot of really great attractions and upgrading the parks, Dave. I mean, it's quite an impressive plan what they have in terms of kind of revitalizing their parks, because they have to, right?
Oh, they absolutely have to, Aljon. And something, I was down in Florida a few weeks ago, and Universal is really a big competitor for them now. And I, as shocking as this may be, I've talked to people who are opting to go over to Universal because the pricing is better.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And Universal's getting ready to open a new park called
Epic Universe. Oh.
Yeah, Epic Universe. So
it looks amazing.
I mean, I think that Disney has to do this kind of an investment to stay competitive.
Oh, 100%. They're going to, keep on wanting to be the premium brand. They have to inject a lot of newness and innovation, a lot of imagination, right?
Yeah.
They have a lot of really new things happening. They've got an expansion Avatar Land getting ready to roll out, Encanto, tie-ins, Lion King, Cars, of course, the Avengers with Robert Downey Jr. coming back. So there's a lot of great stuff they're going to be doing with Iron Man and his future Doctor Doom. So they're investing in the parks. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. There's other stuff taking place. And I was going to say, Dave, I think we're at this point where my computer just ended up freezing here for a second. Let me.
Well, you know what, Aljon, while you're dealing with your computer, I was going to say, there was an announcement. They're doing a new Freaky Friday live action.
Yes.
As well as a Lilo and Stitch live action. They're both set for a 2025 release, so we'll look forward to those next year.
Yes.
Rick and Morty. If you haven't watched the Rick and Morty animated TV show, it's fantastic. It's hilarious. It's irreverent. It's off the charts funny, I think.
Yes.
Rick and Morty has been renewed for 2 more seasons. That
Good
means
for them.
It's going to be running for like 12 seasons now.
It's a really smart show.
It is. It's a fabulous show.
Awesome. We're getting back on track here. By the way, they have a new name for the Karate Kid film.
Oh, they do?
They do. And I was going to look it up here. It says there is a first look that they put out just now that I found on Comic Book Resources. Karate Kid Legends is the name of the film. Of course, Ralph Macchio comes back as the Karate Kid and is tying in Jackie Chan. So if you didn't know, Jackie Chan played Mr. Han in the reboot that starred Will Smith's kid. I can't remember his name, but Jaden Smith. Yes,
Jaden
that's
Smith.
right. So this was maybe 10 years ago. And of course, this is fresh off the heels of Cobra Kai, which did phenomenal on Netflix.
Yes.
And so I guess this is going to kind of take that legend and kind of interweave some of what happens at the last season of Cobra Kai. And then here's the big film. to launch a new Legend of the Karate Kid, which is going to be interesting. So I guess this might be a springboard for yet another franchise, probably down the road. I think they're trying to get that going. And I can't wait because, I mean, once again, Jackie Chan from China with the Kung Fu, and then Ralph Macchio with Mr. Miyagi's teachings from Japan, and you know, all that from karate and Kung Fu. It seems to be an interesting mix to me. So I'm a big fan of both actors. I can't wait for that. Now, we have a list, Dave. It's a little lengthy, but we're going to go through it. And go ahead, Dave, say it.
Obituary roll call.
There you go. John Ashton from Beverly Hills Cop. He dies at the age of 76. He played Detective Sergeant John Taggart in several installments of the Eddie Murphy-led movie series. Once again, he's been in a bunch of stuff that you'll know from the 70s and 80s. But once again, he'll be missed. Here it is. Alfred Hitchcock's frenzy actress Barbara Lee Hunt dies at the age of 88. This happened last week of September. She is the Oliver Award-winning actress who portrayed one of the victims in Barry Foster's necktie murder in Alfred Hitchcock's penultimate film, Frenzy. She, once again, has had a few different film roles in her life, but most notably for that. Maggie Smith, two-time Oscar winner and Downton Abbey star, dies at the age of 89. Dave, you're a big fan.
Yeah, you know, she was a fabulous actress, and you know, was in Downton Abbey, was in the Downton Abbey movies, and
Harry Potter.
And Harry Potter. She was, you know, had a fabulous career.
Absolutely, I think a lot of people know her from definitely the Harry Potter films and Downton Abbey for sure.
Yeah.
One of the most prolific country music artists, Chris Christopherson, idol country music and the movies, dies at the age of 88. One of the biggest legends in Hollywood and country music, Dave. He was a singer-songwriter behind Me and Bobby McGee. I don't know if anyone knew that. But he definitely did that. Of course, he was on the big screen on A Star Is Born and so many other things. I mean, Chris Christopherson really was basically the face of Nashville in the glamour and glitz of Hollywood for many decades. And
yes.
Wow, he'll
be missed, but boy, what a career.
Oh man, 100%. I mean, he's just an amazing musician. Frank Fritz, co-host of American Pickers, dies at the age of 60. I'm surprised, Dave. That took me off guard.
Apparently he had a stroke, and he, a year or two ago, and he just wasn't able to fully recover from it. It was very sad to see that. 60 is young.
That is very sad indeed. Robert Watts, Star Wars and Indiana Jones producer, dies at the age of 86. Now, my understanding is Robert Watts really, really helped George Lucas get Lucasfilm off the ground. I mean, if it wasn't for him, there would be no Star Wars, right?
Yeah, and a very nice guy. I met him a few times on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, I bet.
Just a real gentleman, and an incredible career. The films that he was a part of.
Hey, the legendary producer. John Amos from Good Times dies at the age of 84. Dave, I think a lot of people know him from not only Good Times.
I mean, he's been in so many things. Yes. He was a guest star. He was a guest star on Psych, that great television show with Dooley Hill and what's his name?
Oh, it's on USA Network. Yes, I'm trying to remember.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, but very familiar face, a great character actor. Certainly remember him from Good Times. The crazy thing here is that he apparently died in August, and it didn't make the trades until September.
What?
And then his daughter found out about it through the trades.
What?
Yeah, so there's some craziness going on behind the scenes on that one.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's kind of nutty.
That is just crazy. Of course, you also know him as Mr. McDougal from Coming to America, an Eddie Murphy film. So
yeah,
there you go. Nicholas Pryor, actor of Risky Business and Beverly Hills 90210, dies at the age of 89. Wow. This guy, once again, who portrayed Tom Cruise's father in Risky Business and Kathleen Robertson's dad on Beverly Hills 90210, died of cancer that spanned several decades.
Yeah,
man.
but you know what? 89, he had a terrific career.
Sure did.
Lives in a lot of stuff and leaves behind a really great body of work.
Well, speaking of legendary, Mitzi Ghertner, showbiz dynamo and star of South Pacific, dies at 93. I think you can't be a fan of musicals without loving South Pacific.
Yeah,
and,
Mitzi Ghertner. She was a staple out in Las Vegas for many years too.
Oh yeah, man, just awesome, and once again, great body of work there. Dave, that was an insane roll call, but we're back in the saddle. A great segment, trying to knock it all out, and now we're back once again with part 4, unprecedented part 4, with layout artist Ed Ghertner, right here on Skull Rock Podcast.
Let's do it.
Skull Rock Podcast. Interview time.
Well, Aljon, we're back again for week 4, episode 4 with Ed Ghertner here on the Skull Rock Podcast. Ed, welcome back. We left off last week with this, this basic layoff that was going to happen, this big layoff of a lot of the traditional animation artists, even though some of them were transitioning to learning Maya and working on CG projects. You were one of those people that was kind of on the bubble, right?
Yes, I definitely felt that way. I learned Maya. I used it on quite a few of the shorts that we were working on. And I know that they had been looking to see who they wanted to keep and who they didn't want to keep. And I was a supervisor for 20-something years there.
So you were senior level.
Yeah, and I thought, I'll go back and I'll do layout. All the 9 old men that I used to talk to, they said, well, one time you're the director, next time I am. Next time I'll do your drawing, next time you do mine.
Right.
And I was willing to do that. But that wasn't in the cards. And so I found myself out, to be honest. I didn't even go back over to TV, Disney TV at the time. I was off for a few months trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Right.
Trying to get my portfolio together. And, it's a strange thing having been at Disney because they go, oh, well, you worked at Disney. Oh, wow, this is great. Well, they probably want too much money or you're too
senior.
Too senior.
Yeah, you know too much.
Yeah. And so it took a while, but I went on to Curious George with a lot of my buddies that I had worked with.
That Matt O'Callahan was on that, and there was a ton of Disney people that went on to work on that, right?
Yeah, and I felt like I was welcomed in there, and really what had happened was that Universal, who was doing the Curious George movie, was using Warner Brothers as their post house.
Okay.
And so I moved over to help finish Curious George, and I went over to Warner Brothers. And during that time, I worked on the Fat Albert movie and finished up Curious George.
So how long were you over at Warner Brothers before? You left Disney.
Yeah.
When did you leave Disney? 2003, 2004?
Yeah.
2003. And then you went to Warner Brothers essentially for how long?
I think it was about a year. I think it wasn't a long time. And I did that, and then I did some work on the Simpsons movie. Before then, I went over and I worked with a group of people on a thing called a little show called Hellboy.
Okay.
We were doing animation, and we were going to do a series, and I worked with Tad Stones, who had been producer, director, writer, artist.
Tad Stones basically started Disney TV animation.
Yeah. And so we did quite a few half-hour pieces, and the company that was going to show them had a really bad time of knowing what and when to show the shows, and they put it on during Halloween night one year, and nobody was home watching TV.
Jeez.
So they went, "Oh, we don't want it now," and they canceled it before it even got out. But then
Wow.
they ran it again the next week, and it was their highest rated show, but they didn't put it back on. So we put
Wow.
it out. We put it out on not Blu-ray, but disc. But with the exciting thing about working on that, it felt like Disney again because I got we the stories were done by Guillermo del Toro, and we had all the live action Hellboy voices that we could use.
Yeah.
So we were like part of the real thing. And Mike Mignola, you know, had done the design. That was his idea, and so it was fun to work with him there, and then work with him again on Atlantis when we worked on Atlantis. But I had worked on that, and then when it fell apart, I moved over to The Simpsons because it was all being done at Phil Roman at the
Yeah.
time. And
And that was being done in Burbank, basically.
yeah, it was done in Burbank, and they were getting started on their movie, so they had to double their staff.
Yeah.
Because they had the TV series and the movie being done, which I worked on both. So I helped out Mark Kirkland, who was the lead director at the time, and we were trying to get new people coming in, and I was kind of supervising the layout department on that.
Yeah.
And I had done some CG for them because they wanted to put some CG in the TV series so that it didn't look awkward when the movie came out with some CG in it.
Sure.
So I did that, and then, which is kind of funny, I went back to Disney. Kirk Weiss had given me a call. It was Kirk Weiss, Joe Hader, and I had worked on an idea called the Ghost Project. And it was an idea that when you die, you go on a ghost train and you go to Hemlock, the city of Hemlock, which is northern New York, which is the earliest civilization in this part of the world. And the train will let you off if you haven't finished something as a human being. And what had happened was that this boy is his parents are very worried about him because he's living up in the big city in New York, and they move up north to get him away from all the bad things in the world. And what happens is that he hits his head and he can see the ghosts. So he tries to help the ghost move on, and the ghosts try to help him be a human being. And it was very interesting to develop a show from nothing and really dig into the history and why things happen, because we had part of the story is that the city was founded by some rich guy who had used slave trade or whatever, and coming over, and they started a museum. Well, by bringing stuff in the museum, ghosts are attached to those objects.
Got it.
And so the ghosts are. So it was a fun little project that we were doing for Disney Toons, basically, and we showed John Lasseter at the time. He was in charge, and he loved it. But over the weekend, there was something happened, and they didn't like it, and they cut it. And we were all supposed to, like, we lost our jobs.
Like that Monday.
Yeah, that was. Yeah,
it was like pack your stuff and get out,
yep,
right?
Get out of here. And so, luckily, I walked about 30 yards and went over and found Tinkerbell 3 being done. And I said, "Hey, you guys need anybody?" So I got onto that and had a short term on that because the director didn't see eye to eye with me. And
Who was directing that?
oh God, what was her name? I can't. I'm trying to forget her name because
Okay.
uh, that was not a happy time. But so I went off and I once again I was out of work, and then a friend of mine said, "Hey, we're doing a new show. It's going to be a DreamWorks Bento Box collaboration," and it was Neighbors from Hell, and that show ran I think one season. And right after that, I came back to Disney TV, actually. I met with Jamie Mitchell, who had started a show called Sophia the First. And he said, I need somebody. And I had worked with Jamie. I was his art director on the Little Mermaid TV series and had worked with him before that. And so I went back over there and designed pretty much 90% of Sophia the First. And I had a great time doing that because it was fantasy and it was mixed with reality, and it was castles and
Was
magic.
Ed, was there some controversy on Sophia the First at the very beginning of it? With the voice talent that was selected, or
I don't know. I
I
wasn't
remember
that
hearing something about it, but anyway.
yeah, I don't know. I know I came in, they had started, I came in about 2 months after they had gotten started on it.
Yeah.
Um,
What'd you think of that picture?
the Sophia,
Yeah.
I I I enjoyed the idea. I thought it
Uh-huh.
was great. I was able to use all my knowledge that had been passed down from Ken O'Connor and all the old guys. I could we went everywhere, in the world and other fanciful places. And
You know what the controversy was? It just popped into my head. It was the fact that it was the first Latino princess.
that's right.
And
Yes,
it was like, but she was being relegated to Disney TV or Toon
yeah,
Studio.
yes,
Like
that's
she
what it was.
wasn't getting the full feature
Yep,
treatment,
yes,
the way
yep,
Tiana got, or,
yep.
any of the other princesses, Pocahontas or Aladdin, you
And
know.
what was interesting is that those of us working on it were all had been in the business for a long time.
Yeah.
Larry Leaker and me and Jamie and trying to think Linda Miller and we so we had all the stuff going for us, and we pushed it. We spent a lot of money. I know that we did.
Well, the
Uh,
quality was put into
yeah,
it.
yeah,
It just wasn't going to be a theatrical release.
nope,
Yeah, and I think that's really what the controversy was at the time.
yeah. And so we did that for almost 10 years. I don't remember. Was it 10? Yeah, close to it, I think. Or,
Sophia the First was on for that long, huh?
we did 7 seasons, I think, something
Wow.
like that.
Wow.
Yeah, which
Fantastic.
was great, and
Yeah.
we got to go, and basically we actually came up with a spin-off show from that because the world was getting kind of small, and we kept growing it. And Elena of Avalar,
Okay.
basically a spin-off of that. And at that time, we had another show that came up, and it was fun to do, but TV was starting to change. It was kind of like you could see the clouds moving in, and budget cuts, and we can't get this done anywhere else in the world for the price that it would take to do it. And I was getting a little upset in the fact that we worked so hard to, in Florida, in Australia, in Canada, in England, and in Paris, teaching people how to do Disney animation,
Yeah.
full animation, the quality.
Yeah.
And they started to cut back on it and cut back and cut back and cut back. And
from season to season.
Yeah.
They were sort of
Yeah.
simplifying
And then show to show, and they weren't letting us develop, the people who were working on the show develop the show. They had other people that would come in and set the style, and it just wasn't up to par for me.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but after that, I went on to the last show that I had done at Disney TV, which was the Firebuds, which was an interesting show to work on because we had human characters with vehicles, and they were living in houses together. So the lead kid's father was the fire captain, and his partner was the fire truck. Now I have to draw an interior of a house where a fire truck can move through a doorway. So the scale was extremely hard to match, you know, and make it not look funny. So there are no stairs, you know, always put ramps in.
Wide doorways.
Yeah, wide doorways. You know, do they eat? So it was an interesting challenge.
How long did that show last?
It's actually on now. I think this is the last season.
How many seasons were there?
3 or 4.
Okay,
something like that.
And you finished up your career on that?
Yes, I did. Yeah. They were going to let me go because I don't think they wanted to hear me say that it needed a little bit more here and there. And I would do it in a nice way, in a professional way. But I just felt that I wasn't wanted there anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Was that sort of like, did you feel like that was your time? Like you had an epiphany and said, you know what, it's time for me to retire.
It was time for me to leave that world. I have my own short that I'm going to be working on, and I'm working with a bunch of other people. Let me put it this way. I found that by saving my money and investing and doing what I should have been doing all the years,
yeah,
I had the money now to retire.
Yeah.
Do what I want to do.
Sure.
And work with people like you or somebody who really wants to do something of quality.
Right, right.
You know.
Yeah, I totally get that. I also feel like, I mean, did you feel at any point that ageism was creeping in? Because you know it's very rampant in the entertainment industry. It's the ism that nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah, no, I will stand up for that because you know I worked with all the old guys. I mean, they were
yeah, I mean, all the nine old men. I mean, Frank and Ollie and Ward and Wooly and, you know, all those, Mark, and they were all around when we were starting out.
Yeah. And I finished up with Bernie and Grant on Lorenzo, you know, and he was 94, you know, and I was picturing myself being around, you know, I'm going to be. But I just, you know, I'm not saying that I'll never go back or anything. I'd love to do another feature. I'd love to have a part in making something really cool.
But realistically, do you think that'll happen?
No.
In today's climate? Because I've heard from so many of our colleagues that we've worked with over the decades that their phones are not ringing anymore. Yeah. No. That people are looking at them as being like, they don't, you know, look, I have a screenwriter friend who said to me at one point, it was a very telling, I mean, it was a very great comment. He said, Dave, these young, you know, hipster, you know, producers, they don't want to sit across a conference room table with somebody who's old enough to be their father.
Yeah. Well,
you know?
and they don't want to listen, and that's the hard.
Right.
because I know when I came in, it's like you listen to them and you took their guidance. This is the old guys. They went through all this shit. They're telling you don't do this because it's going to cause trouble, so you don't do it.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's that respect there. But
and I agree. I talked to a story artist you and I both know, who said he got called in for an interview on a project, and the director and producer were enamored with some of the films he had worked on and just peppered him with questions and how cool it was, and they were saying they grew up on those movies, and he told me that he left the interview, which he thought was fantastic, but he didn't get the call to take the job. He said, but 6 months later, he got a phone call from the same people saying, hey, could you come in and clean up the mess that was made by the person we hired?
Yeah.
And I'm hearing more of those kinds of stories.
Yes. And that's where I say, okay, if you don't want me to come in now, great. But when you call me, it's going to cost you.
There you go.
I was supposed to do a movie. I won't go in.
Don't name the names.
Yeah, no, I was supposed to be a lead on a movie, and I went in and interviewed, and I said, I thought I had it because it was people I had worked with, but they hired somebody who has proven not to be able to finish things, and he didn't. But they didn't call me back. I think they were too embarrassed because I had said, well, and forget it. If you're going to do that, But no, there is ageism is rampant, and if you say it, then they go, oh, you're just an old fart,
Yeah.
And those of us creatives, if you're a creative, you're still 18, you're still 16, you're still 17,
Right.
You don't see yourself as 65 or 70 or whatever. You're just out there, you can do this stuff, and they won't hire you. I mean, I've put in, I'll give you an example. I put in for Disney Imagineering, I put in for DreamWorks, I put in for a few other places, and well, you're not a good fit. Well, what's a good fit?
Yeah.
But I have all this experience, and here's all my work. I'm not asking for $1 million. What's the problem?
Right.
So it sticks, as you can see, it sticks in your ribs. Like, what the hell? What are you guys?
Yeah, but listen, I think that there's a huge problem happening in the industry because there are people going down the road of hiring inexperienced people who are not able to get the job done, or what they do complete is not what was wanted, or it's poor quality, or it's clear the person they hired really doesn't know what they're doing. And then they have to go and try and find somebody who can then clean up that mess. So they're winding up spending twice the dollars when they don't really need to do that. You know what I mean? So
totally.
Yeah.
And I feel like with TV, it's become, look, if the only food that you can have is rice and beans, you're going to like the rice and beans. But if somebody comes in with a steak, oh, what the hell's that?
Yeah, sure.
And if they all keep the lid on, to keep the prices down, you're going to get rice and beans.
Yeah. So, at this point, I hate using the word retired, but you sort of stepped away from that world.
Yeah.
But you've shifted gears and you're teaching, right?
Yeah, I was teaching, and I've actually kept in touch with some of my students, and they're doing well. And I'm working on a book with a friend that is going to possibly be turned into a show. And, I'm still out there doing this stuff. And I always tell people, if you're genuine and you need some help, or if you want to talk to me about how things are done, I will tell you how I did my way. There's a million different ways to do things. I have my books out that I've done, the composition for animation.
Right.
I did a children's book, The Jewels of Alcazar, and I'm just going to do my stuff and help people out because I was helped when I was younger.
Sure.
Uh, you know, all the old guys were very generous, and I'm trying to give what they taught me to other people. And if you want to know, you can find out where I am, and I don't hide my email.
And I'd say that you've stepped away from animation, but you shifted gears and you've got all these other things going on, and you're in a place where financially you can pick and choose whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Which is a good place to be.
Yeah. And I think what's helped me too is that I have other interests other than animation. It wasn't always, animation, that was my life. But at the same time, I love building things. I have old cars that I work with. I do a lot of the work myself. And so I keep busy that way. And when things come up, I will do them.
Let me ask you this. You obviously you love animation because you've been in it for 45 years.
Yeah.
Do you go and see some of the more current animated features that are being released?
Yeah, I'm in the TV Academy and Motion Picture
and
Academy.
the Motion Picture Academy. So you get to watch all the films once they go on to the Academy screening room.
Yes, and I'm really happy the recent years, I would say the past 3 or 4 years, a lot of different pictures coming in, very artistic, even from Europe, because I remember years ago, you go to the Motion Picture Academy, and it was always somebody's aunt died or father's died or the Holocaust or something, and you'd sit there and go, why are they doing this? I know they're trying to tell a story, but it should be fun. We should make pictures fun. I'm not against anybody doing a dramatic thing. And I think, because I got to work with Ralph Bakshi, the fact of doing a very dramatic animated feature would be great. I think we need to do that. I think part of the problem in animation over the past 10, 20 years, 30 years, I know longer, but during that time, my time in there was that we were always considered the stepchild. And everybody that would come up would say, "Oh, we gotta get in there, and we gotta push, and we gotta be like them." Well, I don't want to be like them. I want to do something good. And when Beauty and the Beast came in and was up for Best Picture, all of a sudden, boom! It's like the window opened. And so I'm glad to see movies like Spideyverse get in there, and the Minions, and all these different styles, and Guillermo doing, Pinocchio, and it's really opened the world. I just hope that it keeps going.
Yeah. Do you think there's a glut of animated pictures? Do they feel like they're starting to blend together, with the exception of those few that come out where they're stylistically really going out on the edge or doing something very different, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles last year, or the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or
Angry
Across the
Birds,
Spider-Verse. But aside from those few, all the other ones from the majors feel like they're sort of the same thing, and the stylistic
I feel like the big studios are treating like they treat every movie. I'm not just saying it's animation. Live action gets treated the same way. Is the fact that, well, we're doing a movie, let's feed them. We'll just put it out there. It's like, well, why don't you put something good out there what's good. It's in the eyes of the beholder. But if you can get the creative people, and I know that's kind of been the word now at Paramount, now that Skydance has bought them, that they want to get creative again and get more creative people doing movies. That's what fills the bank. It happened at Disney because I was there for so long. When the Weinsteins came in, they took live action movies that other studios weren't going to do, and they said, "Sure, we'll back you, no problem."
Yeah.
And when that happens, you get a lot of creative people because the business guys want something safe or something that's already been pre-sold, make it easier for them. I get it, but you'll get some money off that. But usually what happens is the new stuff. You get the Star Wars, you get Indiana Jones, you get, whatever, Lord of the Rings, and I know that the Weinsteins had a portion of that they had come to Disney to offer it to Disney, and they turned them down, and the Weinstein said, well, we'll put, whatever into it. And that's where they made a lot of their money.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you say Lord of the Rings, because when those films first came out, I think I looked at those as being, boy, Disney should have made these.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fantasy. It was,
it's funny.
They were fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because we were working on the Black Cauldron, and the Monty Python group came in with, was it the Holy Grail?
Yeah, back then it might have been the Holy Grail. Yeah.
And they showed it to us, and we all kind of went, "Oh, why are we doing Cauldron if these guys are?"
Yeah, yeah.
And it was interesting to see. I guess they were trying to sell it. That was the time Will Height had just started, and they were going to do. Oh God, what was the other production company? Oh my
Touchstone.
God. Yeah, Touchstone.
Touchstone, yeah.
Yeah. So
what when you look at the animation landscape, what are you hearing from people in the industry? Are things getting tighter? Are jobs scarcer? And also the other side of that is, what do you think of the AI tools that are coming into play?
Well, you shouldn't be afraid of a tool. That's number one. AI cannot do anything unless a human being puts it into it. We've been using AI. Actually, Disney's been using AI since day one. And to me, AI is having artwork that's already done that you can take and manipulate. And that's what we did with what we called the morgue or the ARL. We would take, some of the old animation and make it work for a new picture.
Sure.
And to me, that's what AI does.
Yeah, AI goes out and scrapes other people's styles and reconstitutes it. Yeah, and it's doing it digitally, and it's doing it faster.
Yeah.
And
if you can control it, but you got to control it. It's a tool. Right. It's not, you're not just going to go turn it on and let it, like a floor sweeper.
But what are you hearing out there with the people you're keeping in touch with? Are you hearing people talk about AI? Are you hearing
AI
people being fearful of what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take. There's always going to be a bad side to everything, but you just have to be careful about it. It's going to steal people's style or artwork. Hopefully, there's some sort of control on that. I don't know.
Do you feel the artist should get compensated if their style is being scraped? Right? Yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. They've been doing it in writing for a long time. You take an old script and change the names of the characters and then put it out there as a new movie. It's that sort of thing. And the original writer should get paid for it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the artist should get paid for it. It's a movie. I was in a meeting one time with Michael Eisner, and it was when the movies were starting to not make as much money, or at least that's what they were telling us. And he said, well, we can't just put movies out. I got to please the stockholders. And I was like, I'm a stockholder.
Yeah.
It's not just about the stockholders. If you're making a profit, you make $1, you're making a profit.
Right.
It's got to be good. You have to do that. I mean, in Disney case, I see it as, because I worked at WDI for a little bit on the Tokyo Disneyland stuff, and all the exciting rides and interest comes from the movies that are made.
Mm-hmm.
And all the toys and all the side issues. That's why Disney's never been sold, because they had all these things that they could sell or have it in the park. And if you don't create new things, you don't have anything to put in the park.
Yeah. I mean, to some degree,
yeah.
I think that they could probably slow the flow down a little bit,
Yes.
and focus
Yes.
more on quality
Yeah.
than just grinding out a picture every
Yeah.
year. I
Yes.
mean, that's part of the issue here.
Yeah.
And especially when you look at a film like Wish that came out last November, which was just an absolute awful movie.
It was horrible.
And, somebody said, well, it was a misfire. Well, I think it's beyond a misfire. They actually went backwards in their animation.
Yes.
I mean, the animation's awful for the most part in that picture. And the film just generally is just...
The idea
it's just a terrible idea. And it's sad that was the movie that came out for the 100th anniversary of the company.
But to take the positive road, which I guess I always end up doing, I guess that's just me, everything is secular. It'll come back. But
it always does. It always does.
It always does.
It's a roller coaster. There's peaks and valleys.
Yeah. And you have to look at it that way and say, okay, how can we do this? How can we make this change? And I would love to be part of that. I'm not saying that the people who worked on it didn't put their all into it, but you got to have those ideas. You got to change the system sometimes. Otherwise it just goes flat. And that's where it's at. And I've always said, I was really surprised at Disney that they didn't keep development as a separate unit from production. Not that the people would have to be separate, but the cost. Have 4 shows being worked on in Viz Dev. Keep a small crew, get something that's really good, that's playing well, put it on the screen. It doesn't take that much anymore. With all this technology we have, you could get something up on the screen and just let a certain group take a look at it.
Yeah.
And then throw it into production.
Right.
Because say like Beauty and the Beast, I think I said before, that was the quickest production I've ever worked on. And I, if I'm not mistaken, the quickest thing that had been done was Dumbo. But at this point in time, I did the layout production wise. From start to finish was about a year.
Yeah.
Usually it's 2.5, 3 years. And we had to do it. It was like, well, let's get it done. Let's do it.
I do think that when you do create a box to put people in, that they become more creative. I think the problems arise when you take the box away and just let people do whatever they want, whatever it is to get it up on the screen. I think that's where people sort of the wheels come off the bus, so to speak.
You're going to have multiple influences, such as finances and the artists you have and situations that come up like COVID. But at the same time, somebody who's running that show has to have control on it, to put the brakes on or to be able to see what's going on. And, it's taking what was done in the past and doing it in a different way to help with the finances or help with, the artists or how does this work? Because the thing about Disney was that we all worked together for so many years. We didn't have to learn how to work with people and do the show. We already knew how everything worked. It was okay, give us the show and we'll get into the story.
Yeah. Well, Ed, I think that's a great place to end. It was fantastic talking to you over the last 4 weeks. And I look forward to having you back on the Skull Rock podcast at some point in the future. But until then, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Hey, guys, you ever seen that really old movie? Empire Strikes Back? You know that part? Where they're on the snow planet? With the walking thingies?
Skull Rock Podcast.
Maybe the kid's onto something.
Skull Rock Podcast is made possible by listeners like you. We want to thank Randall Lynch, Spencer Wright, Lindsay Sky-Fay, and Joshua Volkert. Please support our show for as little as 99 cents a month by clicking the link in our show notes. Thank you for listening.
I know you're planning. I know you're planning your next trip to the Walt Disney World Resort, Disneyland Resort, Universal, perhaps. Maybe you're getting ready to go on some of Disney's finest cruise ships with Disney Cruise Line. Kristen is your hookup. What kind of travel deal do we have this week?
If you are a Florida resident, you can save up to 30% on rooms at select Disney Resort hotels. This offer is going to be valid for most stays Sunday to Thursday night from October 6th to November 21st, and then most nights from November 24th to December 25th.
Well, that's great. There's a whole lot of
That's
resorts
great if
to
you live
choose
in
from.
Florida.
Hey, the more you stay, the more you save. That's what I say. So go ahead and book your trip now for those select dates and have Kristen help save you time and money because she has got the direct line. And once again, if you book direct with Disney, fine. But you know what? You don't get a chance to save money if those deals get released. Only Kristen can help you with that. Kristen, where can people email you to get their free quote today?
They can contact me at themeparksandcruises@gmail.com.
Hello, I'm Tanya McKnight Norris, former Imagineer, and you're listening to Skull Rock Podcast. Welcome.
Your attention, please. Now loading on track number 1 for a trip around Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom.
Skull Rock Podcast.
All aboard.
Your Main Street to the world of Disney.
All right, train's pulling up, and Dave, another great episode in the can. And wow, 4 episodes with Ed Ghertner. What a great guy.
He really is. I mean, it just couldn't have had a better guest. I mean, he's just such a terrific individual and very insightful on his 45-year career in the business.
Man, that's an amazing run to be in a place for 45 years. And wow. I mean, Ed, you really made an impact on everyone's lives, and of course, your art. And thank you so much for your contributions to a lot of people's childhood and a lot of people's fond memories of Disney. So we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Once again, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into the program. We do appreciate it. And what else can I say? We want your emails. Feel free to send us those emails, Aljon or Dave at skullrockpodcast.com. Give us a like and a follow on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, where Dave and I both are. You can also check out our show archives there at skullrockpodcast.com. Many thanks to Sorcerer Radio at srsounds.com, where you can find us and so many other great podcasts. And, of course, you can find me on Instagram, ALJONGO on Instagram. And also check out my other podcast, Dining at Disney, where we launch 2 shows a week talking about Disney food and theme park stuff. Dave, what have you got going on?
Well, I'm going to keep mentioning it, Aljon, but, February 21st to the 23rd, the Animation Y'all Expo out there in Nashville, Tennessee, where you and I are going to get together face to face for the first time for the first time, I'm going to say, we're going to be actually side by side for Skull Rock Podcast in the flesh.
It's awesome.
And we're going to be interviewing people, and we got all kinds of giveaways. So February 21st to the 23rd, Animation Y'all Expo in Nashville, Tennessee. Yep. You can check out my Tunes Behind the Tunes show. That's on Sirius XM, Disney Hits, channel 133. There's a new episode every month, and it rotates around and drops at different times. My books, a lot of my books are available at theoldmillpress.com. You can get signed editions. And you can also go to my website, davidbossert.com. And with that, Aljon, I'm going to say, go out and have a fantastic week. Be good to one another. And we will see you back here next Monday. We're going to be back in the saddle again. No more pre-recorded shows. Back next Monday, right here on the Skull Rock Podcast.